Ask you, a couple of weeks ago, we were doing this practice. I think it was one of the Astara sessions, and for the first time I did it, and it was quite powerful, where we are blessing with the left hand and the right
Mm.
hand is facing upwards. What is that practice? And could you
How about
share a
this?
little bit? Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
was totally different,
So
something very
when
new.
when you're blessing with your right hand, the tendency is for it to be more light, right? More light. And when you shift and you're doing the right hand as the receiving hand and the left hand like this, it's more love oriented. And so you're projecting more of a love kind of energy. And part of it is, yes, it's going into the earth, but also because the energy is flowing through you, it's very soothing to the body. And so the reason you don't just start off with that is that this has to have enough light to work. So a lot of times you would do something like that, or you do both. But when enough light's been generated, you actually start to convert that into like love. That's that whole idea of that class at the beginning of the December is, we're working the spinal thalamic tract and how our body and our spine processes light and how that begins to convert into the love aspect. So deeply soothing the body, making the body be very peaceful and relaxed and non-reactive. And so this is a very short like kind of quick way to achieve that. But if like you just take somebody off the street, that might not be strong enough because there's not enough light there. But like when you've been doing practices for a while, the light's there, you can just go right to that. And so it's a way, because the idea of loving kindness, we think of it as a thought or an idea or a behavior, but it's actually a state of the body. And by going through and doing that process, you're cultivating that state of loving kindness in the body. And loving kindness isn't just like, oh, I'm going to be nice to people, or I'm going to behave or be polite. It's the state where everything just calms down, everything is soothed. It changes how your energy body interacts with people. When people project negativity at you, it doesn't quite hit you the same way. you know um, that's why I even paused a little bit when you said the protection. It's like, well, in theory, is if you work the loving kindness component, and there's another way of working the will component, so that the will becomes refined. The protection thing almost becomes not necessary, but it takes a little while. And so, like when you said that, I was like, maybe let's do the thing where you said like the physical, emotional, mental for a little while. And then, because it does take a little while to cultivate. And then over a period of time, eventually you don't need the protection. Your energy body begins transmuting things being projected at you, where really only the really nasty things get through. Like if it's just, people around you, or even a little bit of people being upset at you, it just gets transmuted. You know, that's that whole thing with
Mm.
the love and light thing is it's a form of making your aura like transmute the negativity around you so that you know you don't even have to know that it's being projected at you. It just hits your field and gets flipped. you know
Mm.
like I had this person who was super upset at me, and I honestly, we haven't interacted in years. I don't even know why, but I heard through the grapevine they were super upset at me. And in the old days when they would grind on me or project whatever, it would hurt the body really bad. You know, it would be like, oh God, my body, goes into that fight flight mode or whatever. And I could feel something on my body, but I was like, God, what is that? And when I would evaluate, it was trauma, but it wasn't my trauma. It was that person's trauma. But if you ask that person, they're super angry and hostile. They don't see it as trauma. They're just acting on that emotion. But so much of it got transmuted in my field. It was just their trauma was the only thing that really lingered. And so when somebody told me that they were upset at me, I was like, God, we haven't interacted in like 10 years or something. Like I don't talk about that person. I don't see that person, but it's something from 10 years ago or something. And so, you know,
Interesting.
stuff gets projected at us all the time, like that. And a lot of times we don't even know, but
Mm.
your body will still react even though you don't know. And the more that it gets refined, the less impact that stuff has on you, the less reactive you become.
So when we say refinement, does it also mean that the aura is not strong enough?
Um, Refinement would be a little bit more detail, like the spine, the spinal thalamic tract, the pillar of light is not strong enough. Like that area
Mm,
is too reactive. And then so after that, everything else just goes awry. So the more that you calm those things down and regulate them and open them up, it's also how we experience a higher consciousness. Higher consciousness is not something in our brain, but our brain begins to experience it, and then eventually our body experiences it. And higher consciousness is divided up into waking, sleeping, and dreaming. Waking consciousness, sleeping consciousness, and dreaming consciousness. And so, we try to have a significant experience in all three. But a lot of times, even if we have a little bit of an experience with higher consciousness, it's usually in just one of those areas. And again, it's all tied to the spine, you know,
mm.
the 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 spine and the brain. And so
Yeah.
as you begin to experience more of those different types of higher consciousness, the more it shifts your physiology in the state of your body, and your body, you know, it doesn't react to all the weird stimuli that gets thrown at it. Like it just kind of it, if you do that part well, your body starts transmuting things before even other processes start happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I used
apart
to
from
do
all
this
the,
thing. I used to do this thing a long time ago, like when before the pandemic, where doing energy healing where people would take a super I'd have everybody clear off trauma in their field and throw it in the salt bowl. And I'd have them scan my hand, and then I'd stick my hand in the dirty salt bowl. And then I'd say which one had more gold. Like contamination wasn't there, but there would be more gold after I stuck my hand in the dirty bowl. And the reason why is because my aura would transmute it and then use it for building blocks.
mm,
So like how the golden body forms in a person is it doesn't just like assemble things, it transmutes its way to being gold. Like that's what's
mm,
happening is your body's just transmuting, and at some point it gets really good at it, and that person has the golden body. But
mm,
it's not like things just get, like gold's there or physicalizes, it's that it got transmuted and got there.
mm. Thank you so much.